opinion of keto. So if you're a woman out there and maybe you've tried keto and it didn't work for you, we're going to talk a little bit about why. Or if you're thinking about trying keto because maybe you've seen a friend do it and be really successful, or your husband did it and was really successful, and you're like, hey, I want to jump on that bandwagon, then make sure to watch this video first, because I'm going to lay some things out for you that are going to help you to make that decision. All right. And hey, if you are looking to lose fat, I've put together a fat loss checklist that has the top things I would suggest you focus on to help you start losing weight. So if you have not grabbed a copy of that, write checklist in a comment down below and I'll get that right over to you in Messenger. And hey, if we haven't met before, my name is Becky Fox. I have been a fitness and nutrition coach since 2005 and I've helped thousands of women over that time lose the weight and keep it off in a way that's sustainable and feels good. All right, so let's dive into this. I do want to talk about this because I've been getting a lot of keto crusaders on my page who are trying to tell me or somebody else that they're wrong if they're not doing keto, or that keto is the only way to lose weight, or it's the holy grail, or all these kinds of things. And I do have a huge issue with that. I don't have an issue if you love keto and keto works for you and you're getting results. That's amazing. Do your thing. But the problem becomes when we start making it be a one-size-fits-all solution, right? And this is what happens a lot in the diet industry. If you've been around for a long time, you probably remember when low fat was the thing in the 90s, and now like keto, no carbs is the thing. And now I'm seeing stuff that's like, don't eat vegetables because they have anti-nutrients in it, or, you know, just eat meat, all these weird kind of things. And the problem is when we try to take one thing and make it like it's the only thing that works. And the reality is we're all different. We're all unique. We're all different, right? This is also why a lot of women, when they start to get in their 40s and 50s, they'll notice the things they did when they're 20s don't work anymore. So we always have to keep in mind, especially for you ladies out there that follow me that are in your 40s and 50s, right? We start to have hormonal shifts. And certain things are not going to work for us that maybe work for, say, a younger person, or maybe work for a guy that we're dating or something like that. We have to keep that in mind because we're all unique and different. And what ultimately is, it's about what works for you. Okay. So don't feel the pressure to feel like just because something's popular, you have to go that route. Keto is not the only way to lose weight. There's lots of ways to lose weight. Yes, there's some key underlying components, but for a lot of women, I've actually found that keto backfired on them. So this is why I'm not a huge fan. If you're a woman in midlife, I'm not a huge fan of suggesting that you go on keto. Like I said, if it works for you, cool, do your thing. But for a lot of women, I found it has actually backfired for a couple reasons. One, biologically. So we'll talk about what might actually happen to your body, why you don't get results. I've seen women actually gain weight from doing keto. And for a lot of other women, it's the psychological component, right? It's the sustainability of following it, right? It can lead to overeating. It can lead to making poor decisions because we feel deprived. So I'm going to dive into those real quick and share with you some thoughts on that. So the first part is the actual, what is the keto, following something really low carb, dropping all carbs out of our diet can do to our body. And for a lot of women, it can create hormonal imbalances, okay? So if you're a woman who's tried keto and you notice things like you gained weight instead of losing weight, maybe you noticed like your hair was thinning, your hands and feet were cold, maybe sleep started to suffer. You noticed that you couldn't fall asleep, you couldn't stay asleep. These kinds of things are all indications. So when we're doing any kind of diet, not even just keto, when we start to have these really negative side effects, this is usually our body's way of kicking and screaming and saying, hey, like this is not working for me. Can you please stop, right? So sometimes we'll have these negative physical responses in our body that show us that, hey, this is probably not the best route for you. This is probably not the way to go. And we don't want to ignore those signals. We don't want to push through those signals. Instead, we want to go, hey, maybe this thing, this keto, this low carb is not what my body needs because it's not responding in a positive way, especially if your goal is to lose weight and you're gaining weight in the process. What's the point of that, right? So some research has shown that doing too low of carbs can increase things like cortisol. So if you've heard a lot, cortisol's kind of been a big thing for the last couple years, and cortisol can increase belly fat. And as we get into our midlife, women, we are more reactive to stress. Okay, and a lot of us have cortisol imbalances. The last thing we want to do is put some fuel onto that fire. Okay, it can lower thyroid hormones. It can lower estrogen. right? And then when we're not getting enough sleep, so if it's impacting your sleep, sleep trickles into all kinds of things, especially when it comes to your fat loss and your fat burning hormones. So sleep is going to be one of the key things, and you'll see that in the checklist that I mentioned. It's not just about food and it's not just about exercise, but managing our stress and managing our sleep is a key component to helping you to lose the fat and to keep it off, okay? So that's number one, is the biological aspect. If you're trying to do it and you're having a lot of negative consequences, it's a sign. It's a sign, and listen to that sign, okay? Number two is probably the bigger, even the bigger challenge for a lot of women I see, and that's when we're looking at diets, when we're looking at ways to lose weight, we have to think about the sustainability of the thing that we're doing, okay? For a lot of women, when they're trying to restrict something too severely, so you're trying to give up all carbs, which means you're giving up all the foods that you love, you're giving up even having your rice bowl or your potatoes with your meal, foods that you love, foods that you enjoy, and not even necessarily always that they're bad foods. Like, it's not like you're down in Dr. Pepper all day long. It could just be like potatoes and rice and fruit and stuff like that has a lot of nutrition, that has a lot of fiber that our body actually needs in order to function properly and to do its thing. So I think it's really important to think about when we're going to do a diet or when we're going to follow something. Does it feel sustainable? If you know that if you cut carbs, you're likely to binge on the weekends or overeat at night because you feel so restricted and deprived, how long is this diet gonna last for you, right? Because honestly, what I found with women is the more that they restrict, the more that they deprive, the more they overeat on the other side of that, right? So that doesn't mean we can just run around and eat whatever we want. No, that's not what I'm saying. But there's a lot of times finding more of a middle ground where we come up with a plan that includes satisfaction, includes eating our favorite foods, it includes having carbs in our diet in a way that still helps us to lose weight, is what I found has really been helpful for women, for them to stay on track in the long run, to enjoy the things that they're eating. Because when we look forward to the foods we're eating, we're more likely to stay on track. If we dread the diet we're on, if the diet we're on is miserable because it makes us feel miserable and we don't enjoy it, it's going to have a shelf life. It's not going to last for any length of time. All right, ladies, so that's the things to consider whether you're going on keto or really any diet out there. And it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, you guys. So I want you to remember, just because something works for one person does not mean that it works for somebody else. And just because something works for you, maybe you've lost a lot of weight on keto, does not mean that you're right and other people are wrong. It does not mean it works for everybody just because you do it or it's the only way. So I really want to caution you of listening to people that are keto crusaders out there, because they don't always have the full story. They're basing their experience on themselves. And they haven't worked with lots of women in lots of different scenarios, and they don't understand what actually works for different people. And that's why finding a coach that understands those things to help you is going to be really important on your fat loss journey as well. All right, you guys, so hopefully let me know in the comments down below if you found this helpful. And again, if you have not grabbed my fat loss cheat sheet, make sure to type checklist or cheat sheet, either one, down below in the comments, and I'll get that sent over to you. And it has some of my top steps to help you guys get started with losing the fat. And of course, thanks for